us, we're all about hands-on history. Now, I've recently been talking about timelines, but I wanted to share the other aspect of what we find crucial to understanding history, and that is mapping. It's important to understand when and where in history things are taking place. It really gives the children a foundation, and adults actually, of understanding a launching point to determine when and where in history things are happening. I mean, there's so many stories to history and they take place all over, and it's very hard sometimes to connect things. But understanding when and how things come together like a puzzle, but also location is very, very important. So what I would like to do is share some ideas with you on how we've used mapping in not just regular notebook projects, but to embellish them a little bit or to use them in other projects as well. Let's start though by talking about typical forms of mapping. I mean, we're used to seeing atlases, we get them out of the library, or we have them at home, or now online. I mean, it's so much easier to look online for all that kind of stuff too. And speaking of online, there's other resources that are available too. There's interactive maps. Google Maps has some really cool tours out there, or ways of even just dropping in on the regular Google Maps to any location. But they've actually developed some tours that take you down historic places, like right outside the pyramids, or at Pompeii in Italy, or the Basilica. They've got city tours that take you to Rio de Janeiro and other locations. It's really cool to be able to check these places out right on your own computer screen. I know when we were working on ancient Rome, I utilized that for the Colosseum. Even though it's ruins now, it was really cool and made me feel like I was there, as close as I could get to there for now anyway. Love to go there someday. But in the meantime, okay, so now, when we think about workbooks with maps or notebooks with maps, they're usually pretty basic. We fill them in. The kids might write some labeling on them or color them. But as you see border changes and things, sometimes the maps have to be in order and they're not all pulled together in one spot. But we've got a few ideas to help you out with that. Let's start first of all with how to do some notebooking that just gives you more space to work with, and that's through fold-outs. Now, folders are basically where you can take some cardstock, create your map in a larger format. In this case, we have ancient Egypt, and it will fit in a binder, but once you pull it out, the kids, as you can see, you have a lot more expanse to work with. And in this particular one, we have the kids gluing things down as well, which a lot of kids do in general, but here we're using our timeline figures, we're using some text, or they can write the information in. But they've got a lot more space to do it in. Another way to do this is to take those different border changes I was mentioning before, and by using a fold out, you've got a lot more space to actually lay them side by side. In this case, it's the expansion of Rome, so we have 4 different options, or showing the kids at 4 different points in history how the borders changed. Another option for that is to show, in this case, Paul in the early church. And here we've got some of the 4 routes that he took in his journeys and his mission. So those are all, again, laid out side by side. Now, one thing I am big on is overlays. And this is, to me, a great way to see maps and still be able to introduce more information and layers of information. In this case, we've got the main roads of Rome, and by coloring in the map underneath, the kids can see the location, the whole area. But then, now they've been able to put the maps, an overlay of the maps on top. Now, we use permanent marker when we do stuff like this so that it really stays, it sticks to the acetate. We, by the way, use something called Duralar. It's an acetate alternative. It's a lot more affordable than using acetate. And then you can also glue on extra things on top of that as well. In fact, an example of this, another project from ancient Rome, was early Italy. And in this case, we've got the picture of Italy and some of the border where we were trying to divide up areas in the key. And then on top of that, we've got our locations with icons and text blocks and things like that pertaining to this particular map of early Italy. Now, a way to work with multiple layers. Here we have the state of California. All right, and what we wanted to do is show the regions. So we put down a key on top of this to show the coloration of the different regions. And then on another layer, we put the waterways with all the waterworks, the canals and aqueducts and things like that California has built over time. You can do any type of overlays. You can do agriculture. You could do the missions that were established along the coast. There's lots of ways that you can incorporate layers with a state study, especially, or anything actually. Now in this case, we have two of them representing World War II, the two theaters, and here we have the European theater, and we start with the map itself and have colored in a key to certain times, but then as things change, occupation of areas or whatever, we added in colors. Now in this case, what we've done is I think we used either light color marker or highlight marker, because that's not going to be quite as strong, and you can definitely see through it well. On the next overlay, we put the icons for battles and conflicts and things that took place, but you can see where all of those things were happening. And another thing too about layers is you don't have to have all the layers down at once. You can look at one at a time as well. Here's another one that we did as well for the Pacific Theater too. Same idea, conflicts, locations, borderline, outside borderline. Now, if you want to get detailed when it comes to the overlays, here is a lap book that we did. If you're not familiar with a lap book, it's basically a file folder that has been folded into like a portfolio of sorts. And in this case, we did on early 19th century. And let me get into here. And you know what? Let me actually pull all these out first while I explain it a little bit to you. We wanted to show the growth of the United States and a few extra points of that too. So we created 4 overlays for this, one for each side. And we started with a base map of the United States at 1800. And then we started by incorporating the first layer. Whoops, wants to compete there. The first layer of the United States at 1810. The next layer takes it up to 1820. The next layer takes it up to 1850. And the kids, you know, as you can see, the sections of the country that are coming down and making changes and the border changes that took place. The final layer actually has routes and trails and things like that that were happening across the years during that time. And you can actually, again, lift some of the layers and put this one down depending on what time period those were at and see what was happening at that time. So there's great ways to work with the layers, and you can work with up to 4, obviously. It does get a little full, and we actually wound up putting lamination film down on top of them, but our lap books have been at so many conventions and handled by hundreds, so unless you have a really enthusiastic kid, you might want to think about, you know, protecting yours when you're done too. So now you don't have to get that involved either when it comes to mapping. You can do small mapping projects. For example, here in the ancient Greece one, we have one on Helen and his sons, and actually we put in a small map regarding the early settlements of that time. I know I've got other maps in here, but I'm going to go to a different one here just to give a little variety. Here, ancient Rome. Here's one that we had when the capital of Rome moved to Constantinople, and we actually put just made it a little more of an interactive too, which just kind of makes it a little bit more fun. So I know we have one on the Punic Wars in here as well, and we were incorporated into the cover of a project. And it shows, you know, where exactly Hannibal was going when he was invading or heading to invade, over the Alps anyway. So, and of course, what state study doesn't have maps involved? So here, you know, we've included a map on the cover. We have a map on the inside as well, somewhere in here. There it is. All right, showing maps, you know, the cities and towns and things like that, places of importance. You could really put anything on here, and you could do an overlay on this one as well. And then where that state is located in the region, in the country. So, you know, there's always going to be maps when it comes to state studies. Now, another option for using maps is in games, board games specifically, because now you've got a nice big expanse to use your maps on. Now, in this case, again, like the World War II theaters of battles, what we've done is we've put this into a game. And that way, now as the kids answer questions about what they've learned about, they end up taking little markers and placing them within battles and things. And whoever gets, you know, up to 4 markers on a battle, they get to win that battle. And whoever wins the most battles wins the war. So It's just one way to get them familiar with those two theater locations again. We did another similar thing with Battle Blitz, but this is not exactly the same. This is during the American Revolution, and we've taken the locations of battles and put them into a map in the center. And then we've taken the battles chronologically around, and every time they'd answer a question correctly, they got to move to that battle. And whoever lands on that first wins that particular one. But the thing is, each of these are numbered, and you can see where along the eastern seaboard and colonies itself that those battles took place. So that's one there. Now, this last one I want to show you is Get Your Kicks on Route 66. And one of the things that makes this one fun is it's really the route from Chicago out to California during the time of the Dust Bowl and the Great Depression and all. And we've got just little tidbits of information about that and about what was seen along the route along there. And then, again, it's all based on the cards. And this is a great way to drill when you do file folder games or some type of card games. It's just so much more fun than giving kids tests or quizzes and stuff. So they really get the information down. Better yet, have the kids make the question cards, because once they start making them, they're going to have to dig for that information, and they're going to have a leg up when it comes time to playing the game. So, but anyway, and in this case, you might notice it doesn't have the sheen because we did not laminate this one. I wanted to show you an example of ones that have been and ones that haven't. And again, it's just in how much it gets handled. You've got the option to laminate. So I hope that these have given you some inspiration, some ideas, just little fresh ways of using mapping in your studies with whether it be notebooking or in other projects, and just to bring a little bit more excitement to your history. So if you like this, please like, share, subscribe, and we'll be putting out more of these to help with how-tos and tutorials and all kinds of things. So again, as always, keep your history hands-on, and thanks for watching.